Alright, I've zoomed it into this ridiculous level so that we can focus on two keys. The first one is the on and off key. On turns on the calculator because it will shut down to power off and to save batteries. And if you want to shut it down, you press the second feature and then press this key to turn it off. The second key that's important is the memory key. So that's a second feature of the plus sign. So every time you turn this calculator on, the first thing you should do is reset the memory. And you do that by going into the memory menu. So the shortcut is second plus 712. But we'll go through the menus, alright? So that's the first key, the on off, the memory key. The third key that's really important for us is stat. And the best way to think of it is list, because that's what allows us to put in lists of data and then get a line of best fit. And this vars key allows us to assign that equation to y, just like y equals mx plus b. There's the second feature that I talked about. There's the cursor keys that you can use to move up or down, right or left. Now during the video I'm going to zoom out and I'm not going to show you these number keys because I just can't bear to get you too excited by watching me punch in numbers on number keys. I want to keep things at a calm level. So I'm going to zoom out so that you can actually just see the screen. Now, if you press the second feature, so this second button, when you do that, you'll get a screen and you'll see this arrow. This means that you're in the right setting. And then you press this button for the memory. And when you do that, you'll get this screen. 7 is what you want so that you can reset the memory. Now once you get to this point, you either press enter or you press 7. You want to reset the RAM, so you press 1 or you press enter. And now you press 2 and the RAM's cleared. I'm going to zoom out so you can see the questions and watch me hit the stat button. So we're going to look at this equation and we're going to look at these numbers and try and find the line of best fit. And here's what it's going to look like. All you have to remember is that you're putting in these numbers into a list. This first row will be your first column. This second row will be your second column. So there's your screen. You see this button right at the bottom there, the stat button. Well, if you press that, you'll get this screen. There are only two things that matter here. One is edit, the other is calc. We cannot calculate anything until we enter it in. So first we have to edit it. So the first thing you're going to do is either press 1 or enter, and that takes you to this screen. These numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 go into L1. The bottom numbers go into L2. So you type them in one at a time. I typed in 2 and I'll press enter. 3 and enter. 4 and enter. And then 5 and enter. I use the right cursor key to get to the next table. Sorry, the next column. Now, for 1, the corresponding entry is 10. The next number is 22, 35, 49, 62. Now I've got all my data typed in. The next thing you have to do is press the Start button again. This time you want to do a calculation. So use the cursor key to get to Calc. What you want to do is get a linear regression. So you either press 4 or use the cursor keys to move to that option. So I press 4 or enter. L1, that was my X. L2, that was my Y. I'm going to press enter to accept that. My frequency list, well, later on we have items that occur more than once, and those would go into a frequency list. For now we can ignore it. We're going to store this equation into a variable so that we can write it down and do other calculations. And we're going to call that variable, well, instead of inventing names, there's a button here that says vars. If you press that, it gives you an option, and what we're going to do is use the cursor keys to go to Y vars. We're going to press 1 or enter for function. We're going to press 1 or enter again because this is just Y1. Press enter. It's going to take you to calculate. If you press enter now, it gives you this information. Now you notice that it says y equals ax plus b. Well, a is just what our old friend m was, the slope. So we can write our equation y equals 13.1 x minus 3.7. Now, the question says, what's the value of y when x is 10? You can use the same calculator. You can just take this equation. You could say 13.1 times 10 minus 3.7, and it gives us 127.3. Notice that there's no decimals in our data table, so we're going to round that to the nearest whole number, which is 127. So the value of y when x is 10 is 127. Okay, that was a little fast. I'm going to do it again with another question. See that second table there? Alright. You can take your calculator and go back into stat mode. Remember, that's the only button that matters. You've cleared the memory, you've put the calculator on. There's only one button, stat, that one. So you press it. You want to edit the list. Now you notice that my L1 is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and those are the same numbers I have here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Doesn't happen often. We're going to take advantage of it this way. I set it up like that, but shh. But these other numbers need to be changed. Instead of deleting each one manually, you can use the cursor keys to go to the header, L2. You see this list there? If you press the clear button right there, it deletes that list. If you press enter, your list is now clear. If that's too complicated, you can just type over the previous numbers. If all of that else fails, just clear all the memory and start all over again. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm going to type in my numbers. 120, 101, 87, 57, 42. All my numbers correspond. Just make sure everything's good. I'm going to press my Stat button. I'm going to go to Calc. I'm going to go to Linear Regression, AX plus B, L1, L2, vars, y-vars, function, y1, enter, enter, y equals negative 20x plus 141.4. The question says, what's the value of y when x is 10? So you can do negative 20 times 10 plus 141.4. Negative 58.6. The nearest whole number, negative 59. Let's look at another question. Let's look at question number 3. So I can take my calculator. I press the Stat button. I'm going to edit my lists. I'm just going to clear both of them. I can do that by going to the header. Notice how L2 is highlighted. I press the clear button. That clears all of my numbers there. If I press the left arrow, it'll take me to the, if I press enter, it'll clear that list. If I press the left arrow, it'll take me to that one. Go up to the header. Notice how everything's in there, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You could clear that, press enter, and your lists are clear. That's a long way. You could just clear all the memory. After a couple of times, 2 plus 7, 1, 2 becomes really quick. Alright, I'm going to put in my numbers into L1. My X values are 12, 25, 36, 50, and 64. I'm going to put in my Y values, 100, 75, 52, 26, 9. Now that my lists match up, I'm going to press the Stat button. I'm going to go to Calc. I'm going to go scroll down to 4 for linear regression, AX plus B. L1, L2, frequency list. I'd like to store my regression equation into vars. Y-vars, 1, 1, enter, enter. And this tells me that y is equal to, now we've got to come to some sort of understanding into how many decimal places, so let's go to 1 decimal place so that we're consistent with what we did with the other questions for the equation. So negative 1.7849, this is going to round out to negative 1.8. The 9 will make the 4 5, the 85 will make the 7 become an 8. So I've got negative 1.8 x the 9 we'll make the 5 a 6, we'll make that a 6, we'll make that a 6, we'll make that a 2. So once again, when I round that to 1 decimal place, it's negative 1.8. When I round that to 1 decimal place, it's 119.2. when I do the calculation for x is 80, I've got negative 1.8 times 80 plus 119.2, which gives me negative 24.8. I don't have any decimals, so to the nearest number it's going to be negative 25. Let's look at question number 4. I'm going to clear my memory. There's also options here to clear the list if you don't want to do it manually. You can just press 4. That'll clear all of your lists. Now this is a very interesting screen. It comes up very often in your travels. No panic. You can quit. It's always an option. You can always go back to Stat, edit it, and clear your list manually. Old school is always the best option. So clear that list. That's why I showed it to you the first time. That's the best one. Aside from just clearing all the memory. So I'm going to put in my numbers there. My x is 3, 7, 10, 15, 18, 16, 45, 82, 102, 116. There are my values. I go to Stat, Calc, 4 for linear regression, L1, L2 frequency list, store regression equation into variables. Why variables? Oh, because that's the best place to put an equation. 1, 1. Telling us that y is equal to 6.7 x plus 1.1. When x is 50, that gives us a value of 336.1. We don't have any decimal places. Times are tough. 336. What are you going to do? It's hard to find good points. All we know is they're somewhere out there on the plane. Alright, one more question before they turn the page on me. Question number 5. Sure, I can show you how to clear all that memory. Second nature, okay? The blue button. So it's second plus 712. Ready? Done. Stat. Edit. 5.6, 6.2, 7, 7.3, 8.4, 120, 130. Start, because that's the option, right? You're going to go to Calc. You're going to go down to 4, linear regression, AX plus B. This is so easy. Why are we even watching a video? L1, L2, L3, sorry, I got carried away. Frequency list. Store the regression equation into vars. Why vars? Why not vars? 1, y1, enter. Look at that. So this tells us that y is equal to 17.4 x plus 22.8. Predict the value of y when x is 11. Well, 17.4 times 11 plus 22.8 gives us 214.2. No decimal places. That becomes 214.